Hello, can you hear me? Thank you.
Testing the audio. Good afternoon. It's currently 1 o'clock. We will give it a couple minutes before we get started. Thank you. Welcome. and thank you for joining us for the State Water Resources Control Board's Water Rights Fee Stakeholder Meeting. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom and webcast, and it is also being recorded. My name is David Ceccarelli, and I serve as the Fee and Revenue Branch Chief within the Division of Administrative Services. Today, we have several members of the Fee and Revenue Branch team working behind the scenes to help ensure the meeting runs smoothly. If you experience any technical issues at any point during this event, please don't hesitate to contact us at waterrightsfees@waterboards.ca.gov. Joining me today from the Water Board's Fee and Revenue Branch to assist with this presentation is Cassandra White. Let me go over just some meeting guidelines before we get started. For those joining via Zoom, please use the raise the hand feature if you would like to ask a question or provide a comment. Staff will enable your microphone in the order hands are raised. If you're participating through the webcast, you can submit your question or comments by emailing us at the address displayed on the screen, which again is waterrightsfees@waterboards.ca.gov. When it is your time to speak, please introduce yourself and who you represent. Please remember to refer to the handouts that were emailed to you prior to the meeting. If you didn't receive them, don't worry. We'll be displaying the documents on the screen throughout the meeting. You can also request a copy afterwards or access the handouts on the Water Board's fee webpage. To help the meeting run smoothly and stay on schedule, we ask that participants limit themselves to one question at a time. If you have a follow-up or clarifying question related to your original inquiry, that's perfectly fine. Once your question has been fully addressed, we'll move on to the next person in the queue. If you have additional questions, you'll be re-entered into the queue in the order received. We value and respect all input. However, if the discussion begins to stray from the primary purpose of this meeting, which is to focus on water rights fees, I may ask that we continue that conversation offline. This will allow us to coordinate with the appropriate staff and ensure your concerns are properly addressed. The purpose of the discussion is to review the fiscal outlook for the Water Rights Fund, discuss budget cost drivers, and obtain stakeholder feedback regarding potential fee adjustments for fiscal year 26-27. Stakeholder engagement remains an important part of the fee setting process, and it helps ensure transparency in how program costs are funded. Next slide, let's go ahead and start by reviewing the agenda. Our first item will be a discussion on the Water Rights Fund budget cost drivers and an explanation of one BCP that's related to the cost drivers. Then we'll have a discussion on the Water Rights Fund condition. And then we'll have a discussion on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, better known as SGMA. And then we'll have an open discussion. And during our open discussion, we'll have staff from the Water Rights provide an update on Cal Waters, the State Water Board's new online water rights data system and mapping tool. And then finally, we'll talk about next steps, which is the board adoption meeting scheduled for September 15th. With that, I'm going to pass it to Cassandra, and we'll move to the first item.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go through the water rights cost drivers. So our first table shows the now prior fiscal year 25-26 fee setting budget of $38.3 million, followed by the governor's enacted fee setting budget for fiscal year 26-27 at $39.1 million. And as noted, the fee setting budget does not include SGMA expenditures. And that net difference is $738,000 or 2%. And the second table shows what's driving the cost. So the first cost driver is state operations with an increase of $744,000 and just about 2% at 1.9%. And this is primarily employee compensation, including salaries, healthcare, and retirement costs. The next item is CDTFA, which is the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. This allotment is for expenditures incurred for processing the Water Rights Fund, annual invoices, and collection activities. And there was a slight increase of $10,000 with a non-measurable percent change. The next one is the BCP. There was one BCP this year, and this is the Cal EPA Consolidated Administration. The BCP is charged to multiple water board funds, and the water rights fund portion of this BCP is $65,000 or 0.2%. And the next item is budget adjustments, and there were two. These were the results of fiscal year 24-25 budget letters, 24-20 and 24-24. So the first one adjustment is section 4.05. That's from budget letter 24-24. It's the government efficiencies reduction. This item is a decrease of $110,000 or 0.3%. And the second adjustment is section 4.12, resulting from budget letter 24-20. It's for vacancy savings and position elimination adjustment. This item is a decrease of $441,000 or 1.2%. And the last cost driver is pro rata. And this was an increase of $515,000 or 1.3%. And now let's take a little more detailed look at the BCP. So this is the Cal EPA Consolidated Administration. So the California Environmental Protection Agency, Cal EPA, received 14 permanent positions and reimbursement authority in the amount of $2.6 million from the motor vehicle account in fiscal year 26-27 and ongoing to consolidate administrative activities to support an efficient and effective government and comply with Public Resources Code sections 71121 through 71126. And Cal EPA's BDOs also received an increase to their expenditure authority in the same amount of $2.6 million, which would proportionally be split across various funds. The water board's total portion is nearly $1.7 million, and the water rights fund share is $65,000, and the other two fee water board funds are the WDPF and which is the Waste Discharge Permit Fund, and the Safe Drinking Water Account. And overall, the anticipated impact for BCPs for the Water Rights Fund is just $65,000 and 0.2%. But overall, for the cost drivers, the impact is, again, as we said, $738,000 or 2%. And if you'd like any more information on the BCP, you can go refer to the Department of Finance, and the link is provided in the current handout today. And I will hand it back to David.
Thank you, Cassandra. Before we move on, let's go ahead and take some questions here. If there are questions here on the budget cost drivers. Bob, I see you have your hand up.
There we go. It's Bob Gore from the Gualco Group representing Kings River and one of the state's oldest and largest water right holders. There's a small increase that Cal EPA BCP, but even though it's de minimis, it makes a much larger point. It illustrates the need, the water board and ratepayers to inform legislators of the true costs to ratepayers of changes, increases that go to fee payers by default. The BCP for Cal EPA was an evil surprise in May. It probably should have been out in January. That's a matter of debate. But it illustrates that we are being done for expenses for which we receive no benefit or de minimis benefit, even less than the cost. And that we need to begin making this point together. These changes can't continue by fiat. I understand the confidentiality behind BCPs, but overall, there's still a need to go to legislators and inform them on a continuing basis, well, you want to change this law? This is what it's going to cost your ratepayers, your constituents. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for your comment, Bob. Definitely noted. At this point on the budget cost drivers, there are no other questions. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide here.
David, I just wanted to correct one thing. The Cal EPA BCP was in the governor's Jan 10 budget and
Okay.
has been was included in our March stakeholder meeting as well.
Okay.
I said corrected. Thank you, Cassandra.
So we'll start with this is the fund condition for the Water Rights Fund. We'll start the discussion looking at fiscal year 24-25. And this is an actual at this time, meaning that, of course, the Water Board has accounting office has closed the books and all financial statements have been submitted over to the State Controller's Office and also to the Department of Finance and are published on Department of Finance's website under fiscal year 24-25. So the Water Rights Fund began a year with an adjusted balance of approximately $14.6 million. Total revenues were $34.7 million, while expenditures reached $36.7 million. As a result, the fund experienced an annual operating deficit of approximately $2 million. Despite, again, a couple of key messages, despite the deficit, the fund maintained a relatively strong ending balance of $12.5 million. The reserve level remained healthy at 34.2 million, at 32.2%, providing, of course, financial stability. This year demonstrates that fund can absorb short-term deficits, but continued spending above revenues, again, is not sustainable. As you may remember, what the board adopted in 25-26 were no changes as a result of us utilizing some of the fund reserve. So looking at 25-26, this is labeled as a forecast at this point, just because of the fact that our accounting office is in the process of closing books, doing their year-end calculations. However, we do have a up-to-date kind of revenue reports and expenditure reports that we build into these forecasts here. So for 25-26, the fund entered the year with an adjusted balance of $12.5 million. Revenues are projected at $34.9 million, and expenditures are forecasted at $33.1 million. Revenues are expected to exceed expenditures by approximately $1.8 million. The fund balance is projected to grow to $14.3 million. Reserve levels increased significantly, to 43.3% from, again, 34.2%. This projected surplus temporarily strengthens the fund's financial position. Again, this reserve level provides financial stability and support the program's ability to manage, again, unforeseen cost. Staff continue to monitor expenditures closely to ensure the fund stays balanced and the reserves remain at a prudent level. So let's look at 26-27 here. And the first column there is basically no fee changes scenario. And the beginning balance is projected at $14.3 million. Revenues remain relatively flat, again, at $34.9 million. Expenditures, based on the budget cost drivers that Cassandra just went up, are projected to be $40.1 million. The fund is projected to experience a deficit approximately 5.2 million. Ending balance declines to 9.2 million, which again, the reserve levels fall sharply to around 23%. A couple of takeaways here are the existing fee levels, again, would not generate sufficient revenue to support projected program cost. The continued operation under current fee rates would significantly reduce reserves and weaken long-term financial stability. Under the no fee change scenario, projected revenues are not sufficient to fully cover course expenditures. While the fund remains solvent, continued reliance on reserves is not sustainable over multiple years. This scenario highlights, again, the structural gap between projected revenues and program cost. And expenditures, again, are expected to exceed revenues by approximately $5.2 million. Without fee adjustments, the fund remains operational, but continues to draw down the reserves, reducing the flexibility for future program needs and unexpected cost. So again, if nothing is done, basically what's happening is we're utilizing about $5.1 million of the reserve, and builds the structural deficit of, again, over $5 million, which in future years, we'd be looking at trying to recover those costs, basically. So what staff have crafted, along with no fee change, is a couple of other scenarios here. And we'll start with scenario A. And so scenario A is with fee changes. And basically what we would be highlighting here is generating roughly around 5% of additional revenue in the program. And 5% is roughly about 1.6 million in additional revenue. So scenario A includes a moderate fee increase, roughly again, 5% additional revenue, and utilizes the fund reserve. And so when we're looking at utilizing the fund reserve, we'd be utilizing around 3.5 million of a reserve of roughly around 14.3 million. That is roughly 25% of the fund balance, fund reserve that we would be starting the fiscal year in 26-27. Revenues would increase to approximately 36.5 million. Expenditures remain again at 40.1 million. Kind of the key message here is the annual deficit is reduced from 5.2 million to approximately 3.5 million. The ending balance fund reserve improves to 10.8 million. And then reserve levels end around 27%. Part of my takeaway on this is scenario A slows the reserve depletion while limiting fee impacts on the regulated community. However, revenues do not fully cover projected expenditures. There's a structural funding challenge remains. So we would have a structural deficit of around 3.5 million under scenario A. Scenario A represents a balanced approach that shares the burden between, again, a modest fee increase and limited use of the reserves. And we'll talk a little bit here in a moment about kind of what we're talking about, potential fee increases here. Under scenario B, and this one is basically covering our full revenue to cover our expenditures. And scenario B, of course, reflects a larger fee adjustment, basically needing roughly around 16% revenue to meet our budgetary expenditures, which is generating roughly about $5.1 million. So revenues increase approximately to 40.1 million, matching projected expenditures under this scenario. The fund effectively breaks even, generating again a small surplus that shows 64,000 here. And our goal is to get closest to zero as we could. The ending balance remains, of course, stable at approximately 14.4 million, and the reserve level remains healthy at 35.9%. Some takeaways: scenario B fully addresses the projected funding gap. The fund maintains a reserve position while supporting projected program expenditures. This scenario provides the strongest long-term fiscal stability. Scenario B provides the greatest level of fiscal sustainability among the options presented, of course. Scenario B generates sufficient revenue to largely maintain current fund health. This option minimizes future reliance on reserves and supports long-term program stability. And probably finally, scenario B maintains a financial strength of the fund and positions the program to address future workload and budget uncertainties. So to kind of recap, staff has kind of proposed or put together a couple of scenarios here, along with not doing anything. I would say for staff, for myself, if you would ask me what scenario that I would be, I guess, proposing or would support would be scenario A. Again, a minimal fee increase and utilizing some of the reserve. The no fee increase, which still maintains a prudent fund reserve, but really begins to open up the gap between our revenues and expenditures. So really starts to create a large structural deficit. And under scenario B, which again fully covers our program costs, but again continues to maintain a high reserve in this fund of again almost 36%. So I will pause there and open it up to any questions at this point. And Bob, I will start with you since you have your hand up.
Well, I see that Steve has managed to make his way online, but let me briefly say that Kings provides irrigation water for 4,000 growers across 1 million acres, 60% of whom are small farmers by CDFA standards. Also, the water for 100 DACs, about a dozen GSAs, and irrigation districts. So the impact of any rate increase will immediately be trickling downhill to all of the folks I've mentioned. In addition, the Department of Finance, as we've discussed at the water quality proceeding, is just loves to sweep surpluses. Now, they may continue to let this slide, they may not, but a surplus the size of even 35 million is at risk and has been historically. It's happened in the past. Yes, it becomes a loan, but when it gets paid back is problematic, especially in several budget deficit years to come. So I would augur at this point and argue that we're better off, all in all, foregoing a rate increase, at least for this year, because you wind up, worst case scenario, with a surplus of, a reserve rather, surplus of 35 million. And that's what I've got to say. I hope I didn't preempt you, Steve.
Thank you, Bob. Steve, you have your hand up? Good afternoon,
Yeah.
Steve.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me get on at a late notice. I won't repeat Bob, but I agree with everything he just said. You know, looking at the 25-26 forecast, expenditures are down at least $3 million from the prior year, and I suspect those are well under budget for what was budgeted last year. You're forecasting the future expenditures for next year to be around 40 million. That'd be a $7 million increase in expenditures over last year. I suspect that would be a challenge to accomplish. And again, I would focus more towards that no increase, knowing at some point in the future, we are going to have to catch up. but the way the economy is for most of my member units, most of our water users, I would strongly encourage recommending the no fee increase at this time.
Thank you, Steve. And
That's what I.
let me just provide one comment on and kind of explain the expenditure side of things there. Cassandra, if you could go back, or Gary, I apologize, go back to the budget detail, which shows the fee setting budget for 25-26. Okay, so our authorized budget was actually 38.3 million. So that was our authorized budget. And so now let's go back to the fund condition. So as you pointed out, Steve, so when you look at our actual expenditures, they're coming in around 33.1 million. And several of those factors had to do with, of course, the budget control letters of us having to hold vacancies and so forth, and look at some of the operations and things like that. So our expenditures came in less, right? And so now when we're looking at what we project our expenditures to be for 26-27, they're roughly around 40 million. So they're really going up, like from what our fee setting budget last year was 38 to the 40 million. So they didn't really go up 7 million. It went up, a lot less than that. But yeah, I appreciate your comment that kind of looking at no fee changes would be what you'd support. So I appreciate that. So then I just want to take a moment of then what are we talking about when we talk about adjusting fees for the Water Rights Fund here? And historically, of course, we adjust the fees on our annual fee side of the house, which is our permits, license, pending applications. And all of those pay a per acre foot fee that's greater than 10 acre feet. They also pay a base fee. The current fee right now, the base fee, I believe, is $350, and it's 0.12 cents per acre foot. On the fund structure there, the 5% represents 5% of additional revenue. By, again, adjusting the per acre foot charge, we're looking more around 4%. So if you raise the base fee 4%, that goes from $350 to $364. So that means those that are under 10 acre feet of water that are just paying the base fee would have a fee increase of $14. And the per acre foot charge would go up again from 0.12 to 0.124. And so some content, if someone that had 1,000 acre feet of water, their fee would basically go up by adjusting again the base and the per acre foot charge. Their fee would go up about $18. Looking at our largest water right holder, who's diverting roughly around 10 million acre feet of water, their fee would go up approximately around $40,000. Now, water rights program staff and myself and my staff, we'll have to continue these conversations, because there's also an opportunity about adjusting our one-time application categories. And if we were to, of course, adjust those by a percentage amount, which we know generates additional revenue, the percentage may be actually lower. And so those are some conversations that we're going to continue to have and be part of course, the staff report. I will say one area that we wouldn't be adjusting would be the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC program. I say that because on the water rights side, I say that because their revenue is generating sufficient, of course, revenue to cover their program cost. So I definitely want to mention that. So I'm going to pause here just for a moment and to see if we have any additional questions or anything that's online here. Okay. I don't see anything at this time. Again, kind of at the end of the meeting during the open discussion, there's always an opportunity if anyone wants to go back to any of these reports. And then let me just kind of get this out front. If, again, after the meeting, if you'd like to meet with myself, or Cassandra, or John Russell, we'll be definitely happy to have those discussions. Along with if we need to bring in appropriate program staff, we'll be more than happy to do that and coordinate that for you guys. Let's go ahead and I guess bring up the agenda again, and we'll move to the next item, which is a discussion on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA. And we'll give a moment here for program staff to get online here.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Natalie Stork. I'm the director for the board's Office of Sustainable Groundwater Management. At the June 12th Water Rights Fees Stakeholder Meeting, staff discussed two proposals. These include revisions to the automatic late fee that's currently in our fee regulation and creating an application fee for requests for exclusion from either reporting and fees or probationary status. To date, staff have received 2 written comments regarding the application fee for exclusion requests and are evaluating how to incorporate this feedback into any exclusion request fee structure that's proposed. Staff are considering bringing both proposals to the board for consideration in mid-September and are still interested in feedback on both proposals. Staff received 1 letter proposing changes to the existing well registration fee. Staff are not currently proposing any changes to the existing reporting fees for this fee cycle. And that's my update.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie. Let me just pause here, Natalie, and just see if there's any questions for you. Vanessa has her hand up.
Yes, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you for the update. As you know, Crunchler is one of the entities that submitted a comment letter on the original proposal. I was curious, I know you said that you're still working on how to incorporate some of the feedback that you received into your guys' proposal. Will there be another chance to see how that feedback was incorporated before the September hearing?
I think I'm going to kick that question over to the fees team or David Rose. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, David.
Thanks. Hey, I'm sure I'd say the same thing as David Ceccarelli would, but there will, or there has historically in every year been a draft regulatory text released for public comment in advance of the board meeting. So once actual reg text is written up, we do anticipate the exact same process occurring this year, that we would send it out to everybody, certainly everybody who's commented, but everybody who's signed up on our lists to receive it, and solicit feedback on the actual regulation text before it goes to the board on September 15th. So absolutely yes is my very strong guess based on historic practice. That is, unless David, you say there's anything you're aware of that's not the current plan. I
No.
expect that we would be sending out draft reg text for comment in advance of the board meeting. And of course, there's always an opportunity for comment at the board meeting, and usually an opportunity, almost always an opportunity for written feedback on the draft submitted in advance of the board meeting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything David says. Basically, the reg text is going to be part of the agenda item. So we'll be sending out the agenda item along with the reg text. So, of course, the stakeholders are going to see that in advance. Gives you an opportunity to provide comments. Of course, part of the agenda item is going to explain how to comment. And of course, those comment letters will come in advance so the board members can read them. And of course, staff could read them and allows them to make their kind of decisions based on some of the feedback that they receive.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate these workshops because it gives us this opportunity, right, to provide feedback as you guys are drafting these proposals before they go to the board. And so it's a great way to get, GSA feedback, public feedback. And we did submit that comment letter by, I believe, the date that it was requested. And so I'm not sure if you can give any more of an update on how you're taking those comment letters. I know you said they're still under evaluation, but as stated in our comment letter, Currently is concerned just with the significantly small amount of pumping that is happening within our area and obviously our sustainable groundwater management, that now it's sending, the wrong signal of someone that is doing good and managing their water sustainably and now having to pay a fee that's almost the equivalent of what we'd be paying if we were fully under probation with no exclusion. And so any feedback that you can share today would be great. But if not, then we'll obviously wait to see what the written result is.
No, my only feedback is thank you for submitting that early because it helps us craft a proposal that is mindful of and uses your feedback we've already gotten so that when we craft that proposal, you can comment on that with, particularity of what is being proposed as a draft to the board. So, for better or worse, nothing has changed in terms of a write-up being ready, actual reg text between the last meeting and this one. So your comments are received and going into the writing of that. So please do comment again, but I really appreciate the early comments because those help us craft something that is mindful of those your feedback.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Natalie.
All right, thank you. Well, I do have a couple more questions, so maybe these are related to Sigma. So let's see here. Bob, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. And thanks, David and Natalie and David Rose. The final Sigma cost to ameliorate the loan and go on a pay-as-you-go basis is approximately what was in the June proposal. Don't know yet because you're still evaluating comments. What's the status that we're looking at?
For what it's worth, I don't think that the proposals that we've discussed today are intended to materially change the overall recovery, but we'd have to do some number crunching on that to see if that does affect it. But really, the background that we've discussed in the past hasn't changed, is that the intent of this is to recover the program's costs and ensure that no cost is coming from anybody other than the program. And I mean that for the Sigma state intervention program, because there's that component and the general fund component for the board Sigma work.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question or if I missed your point, a nuance of your point.
It did answer it. I didn't think you were on commission, so I understand you're on a full cost recovery basis. I will caution those who are in this Zoom room that as soon as you receive the package, send your comment, because the board meeting is an actual vote. There is no recourse after that vote because it's an urgency regulation. So don't go to the board meeting on the 15th thinking you're going to get a delay. The board will make the decision at that meeting. So the earlier you get your comment in, the better off you are if you object or support to what you see. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Bob. And I don't want to give legal advice to anybody other than my own clients, but as part of the emergency regulation process, folks can also submit comments to the Office of Administrative Law during a window after the regulation is submitted to OAL for approval. But I agree that we want your feedback before the board acts. Absolutely.
Alex, you have your hand up. Good afternoon, Alex.
Afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I guess my question is there a budget that we can respond to? Is there an anticipated revenue projection? I haven't seen any of that that's comparable to what was just gone over for the Water Rights Fund. Other than I think maybe over a year ago when the fee was initially set, and I don't have access to that anymore. So is there any budgetary information that you're going to be basing the fee on in September? And if so, when will we get it? There's been two stakeholder meetings so far that has zero information available to it. So
Sorry, Alex, are you asking specific to Sigma?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The Sigma cost recovery structure for the board's program is slightly different. I don't believe that there is any update. Natalie, you can correct me if you have any new information, that there's been any update to what we discussed when the board amended its volumetric fee component of the fee structure a year and a half ago, or whenever exactly that was. There's still approximately, what is it, Natalie, 5.5 million per year that the board is aiming to recover for its work, and that the legislature has said that fees can be recovered to cover the costs of more than 1 year. So we don't have new information because we haven't actually gotten fee revenue from this program yet. But as that comes in, that will give us a pretty significant data point. So we have not changed the projection of what we're trying to recover with or for these new proposals. These are responsive to well, there are two different proposals here. One is responsive to something that came up in implementation of kind of the timing of reporting. And then the second one is responsive to kind of an unexpected workload on the exclusion request. So that's why these changes are kind of looking to, I don't want to say move deck chairs around a little bit, but specific costs that are known by us are trying to be redirected to the users or beneficiaries of those costs.
So I guess so. The bottom line is that you're using year-and-a-half-year-old cost projections of $5.5 million per year. At the time that you set the fee back then, I believe there was some projections of fee recovery, and you're still using those same projections.
The costs haven't changed. Those are actually still the same. It's based on the program size. So
what are the costs though? Where have you defined those? We've seen nothing since a year and a half ago.
So I don't have the information in front of me, but there was a BCP basically that allocated I want to say roughly like 3 years of allocations for us to support the Sigma program. And again, I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe it was again like 5.5 million to support, again, X amount of positions each year. What it also said, and I could be wrong here, but I believe it, it's through a loan right now, right? And we're required to pay that loan back, and that would be through fees. And that's why we're, of course, trying to establish, the basis to pay the fee and, of course, set our fee at an appropriate rate. So we are required to pay that back. What I will say, though, I do remember it also part of what the legislation said was that if we're not able to recover the full amount to cover our costs, then the state's going to look at using the general fund as a backstop to repay that back. And then also, though, and I believe it's June 30th of next fiscal year, so that would be, well, I take that back. Again, correct me out if my math there. It's either this June 30th or it's June 30th of 2028, which we would have to be looking at putting in another BCP to continue this program for our authority in the budget.
Okay, I
I
don't
do
know what
think,
a
Alex, that
BCP is, but
the 5.5 million hasn't changed. That's the annual cost for the program for staffing, essentially.
Yeah.
So
but are
that
you
was
trying to
true at the
recover
time.
just
That
that, or are you trying to cover 2-3 years worth of that because you're trying to pay a loan back?
we're
And where
trying to
is any
recover
of that
that
set?
for each year. Yeah, that's the intent is to, and we don't know what the payment rate will be. We don't know until the pumping is reported exactly what the collection will total, because this is a new program. The aim is to recover approximately 5.5 million for each year of work. And because that comes in at a slightly different time, that is still the aim, but we don't yet know whether there will be more collected for the first year of reporting or less than 5.5 million. So the target hasn't changed from, that's what I was trying to get at, is that the 5.5 million that was used to set the volumetric rate and the reporting or associated with the fees for reporting, when we did that about a year and a half ago, that hasn't changed. And so the target hasn't changed.
Okay, so the basis for the fee was based on 5.5 million you're trying to raise and some estimate on how many acre feet pumping you will be billing and collecting.
Yes.
That information, is that still available so we can see the details of what that is? If you're going to continue a fee based on those projections, then that's what we should be commenting on. We've been invited to participate in this process, been encouraged to participate in this process, but there's nothing for us to participate on if you don't give us any budgets or any projections of fees. There's nothing for us to comment on. So I don't know
I'm
how we
not sure if
participate when you don't have a budget for us to comment on. If there's the old budget, where is that? And what are the details of that?
I think Natalie or David could
Yeah.
most easily point to it. But yeah, the same figures that the board had in front of it when it last modified the fee structure are the same assumptions currently being used. So maybe we can send you a link to those. Those, I believe, still are online.
That would be great.
Put the link to the BCP in the chat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it may be more than the BCP, but I do think that there was a package that when the board considered these in, I think it was March 2024.
Yep.
Sorry, March 2025. If that, yeah.
24.
Okay, to modify what the current fee structure is. But we can send that to you. That is, because there's no change, we haven't put it out again, but that is the basis for the current assumption still.
I guess I just make the comment that I don't think that nothing has changed. I think quite a bit has changed. You have reporting already. You have a volume of pumping that's been reported, and you have more experience with cost. And so, it doesn't seem like a valid thing to move forward with 2.5-year-old analysis. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
And again, we'll send the links. I was just notified that as David mentioned, that board meeting was on March 19th of 2024. The Sigma item.
Thank you.
So I'm not seeing any additional questions at this time. So thank you, Natalie. Thank you, David. We will move over to the next item, which is open discussion. And we do have staff from Water Rights that are going to give an update on Cal Waters and which is the State Water Board's new online water rights data system and mapping tool.
Hi, this is Jeff Parks in the Division of Water Rights. I'll be doing a presentation, although I'm flagging for DAS. I need to, looks like I'm not being allowed to share right now. Someone could allow me to share.
Give us a moment here. We'll get it for you here.
And also noting, I did send a PDF copy of this presentation to the Water Rights B email just a little bit ago. So if anyone wants a copy of that, I did send it to the organizers of this meeting so they can distribute later. Perfect. So I was requested to give an update on Cal Waters. It is our new data system, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. I'm Jeff Parks again. I'm a senior engineer in our data governance and modernization section, which houses this project. I'm also the product owner for the Cal Water system. I'm going to give a really kind of brief background of just level setting, where we're at, and what this thing covers. I think we're all aware, of our constituent base. This is for all citizens, covers the whole state. And we're working with 250 staff in an ideal world. Obviously, we're never quite always fully staffed, and our workload is around 42,000 active water rights. It's nice to put this in context because people may ask, why did we modernize? Besides the fact that our previous system was approximately 20 years old, and a lot has changed technology-wise since then. We also have a large workload of things to do. If we had, someone just, screen sharing just dropped, sorry. I apologize, I don't know why my screen sharing just dropped. Give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, I must have accidentally clicked something. So just making the point that, I know resources are always tight, but with that volume of water rights and covering the whole state, this means that if we were fully staffed up, every staff would be reviewing a water right every single day and walking 7 miles upstream, which obviously is not something that we're able to do, which is why having a modern system is important. So our goal, because, we can't physically be everywhere. Our goals were to replace eRIMS with a modern data system. There was a satellite of systems around eRIMS that the public may or may not have been aware of, but this is eRIMS and everything associated with eRIMS, which is the staff side behind the scenes. Another part of this project is digitizing all our paper records in our file room, if anyone's ever visited our file room. And then if you notice, I'm part of a section that's called data governance along with the modernization. So it's also about putting together the governance part of how we use a more modern system and best practices around that. What did we actually do? So this was funded in fiscal years 21 and 22. It was a 60, so it was approximately $30 million allocations from the general fund in 2 different years. That went, a major portion of that went to the contract itself, about 41 million. There was parts of this fund that went towards staffing in both IT and water rights, including my own position. This is when our section was created. And then Gartner Consulting was also hired as part of this fund. The system was built by Deloitte. That contract was awarded in 2023. And so this system actually went live. I know I'm skipping over a big part of, building it, but the important part is we, started this contract in 2023 and it successfully went live in July 2025 this year. It stayed under budget. In fact, we put approximately $1 million of funds that we were able to save and put them back towards further enhancements into the system. And so what is this system? It overhauled the GIS side of our system, which is mostly about searching water right locations and the ability for both staff and the public to find the where of where water rights are. It also added information to that. So this new system lets us link multiple data sources together much more quickly. So in this case, from our GIS mapping, you're able to access the amounts. So information about annual reporting, directly in that. And this isn't meant to be like a super thorough, what is this? It's just kind of giving you a flyby of what the system is. Water right holders for the first time have an account in our system. The previous system did not have actual user accounts. It had a lower tech way that people provided annual reporting information. The new system actually has everyone's water right information in one place. There are accounts for people where they can look up all their information, or they can file all water right forms with us, and also where annually they provide our annual reporting information. For large water right holders especially, this is the first time that they can log in with one login and see all their annual reports in one place and file each of them without having to re-log in multiple times. Similarly, for organizations, it also now gives them the ability to all be linked to the organization and have one staff member start a form and another staff member complete a form. That's all net new abilities with the new system. The public forms, so when people are submitting forms to us, they have geospatial elements in them. So instead of having to provide us with a map, or probably more accurate to say, in addition to an engineered map, people are now able to give us this information about the where of where their water rights are directly in the forms in our system. And this scales up so that more complicated users or users with more complicated GIS geometry can upload that to us as well. Instead of having to draw it live, they can draw it in a GIS program and upload it in those forms and see it in our system. And then for the staff side as well, so this overhauled everything. So both what the public uses and what staff use were completely changed to a new system. So the maps are now nested within the staff side of the system as well. So when they're looking at a record, they can visualize where it is along with the data for it. Another thing we've been highlighting is that we now have a case management system nested within our water rights data system. This means that when the public asks for help or provides us with comments, it is lodged as a case in our system, and it therefore can't be lost. There's now an official record of whatever contact has been made with us. And so one, provides continuity of making sure we don't lose comments or questions that were made to us, but also allows us to assign staff to a request and track the response made to it. And then, I'd mentioned digitization of documents. This is an ongoing part of it. The part of the build that happened between 2023 and 2025 was setting up the digitization process. That is also underway in a parallel effort that is ongoing and will be ongoing for a while. We have an estimated 7 to 10 million pages of documents that need to be scanned in. To date, I think we've scanned in about 1 million documents. So this is something that we have a team that includes student health that is going to be working for probably, a number of years to finish, but this is something that as they are scanned in, it's evolving to make it so that the public also do not have to come into Sacramento to visualize these records. That used to be the only option for contacting the records room staff and asking them to digitize a specific document sent for them to look at. That will now be accessible directly in the public side of Cal Waters. And so all of this was really a lead up to what I think the big question here is what did the public pay for? What are the next steps? What is the status of this? So, I had mentioned that the system went live in July of 2025. We had our first year of use of the new system for last year's annual reporting that started in October 2025. That's also when we did our big push of telling our water right holders, about the new system and having them register in it. It is complete. This is not some things still live in ERIMs and some things are now in our new system. It was a complete cutover. In June of last year, we closed any new data going into ERIMs, and we had a few weeks while our contractor was moving all that data over, and then the new system opened. So it was a complete cutover, and the new system is now the system of record for everything we do. We had, as part of the development process, a user advisory group that was made up of representatives from across our water right holders and interested parties. That was by invitation process, and those folks were given early access to see what we were doing and to give us feedback on that. Though that feedback was incorporated into the version that came out in July of last year, and we are continuing to receive feedback and continually improving this project or the system every day. So the system has been sent out, but we're always working on enhancements and or fixes and or small changes to it as we find them or as we get feedback from it. Some of our largest feedback sources are the water right agents that are in this system every day and are large water right holders that make extensive use of it. So Deloitte is still our contractor and is paid for through that money that was initially that 41 million. That funding covers up through 27, 28. So there are no new costs involved with maintenance and operation and enhancements of the system up through 27, 28. It's still part of that initial 60 million that was provided in 21 and 22. And as I said, enhancements will continue over time as we get feedback about from both staff and from the public about what could change, what would work better. We are making those, and we literally are working every day on this. There will be a major enhancement released in September of this year, just ahead of annual reporting in preparation for the upcoming annual reporting season. Right. So I'll stop there. I know there's a couple of folks here that had asked for this in particular, so I'm open to any questions in general about the system, or about any relevance this has to the fee projections, which I'll just say very generally, this is not part of any of the current fee projections because it's still covered under that original 21 and 22 general fund allocation.
I am not seeing any questions.
Just, and, let me know if anything comes up offline or if there's follow-up feedback
Will do.
later on the system and how it's involved in water rights overall.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate the presentation. And if, again, we hear anything, we'll definitely pass it off to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, I'll open it up if anyone has any further questions. Again, we're kind of in the open discussion area of our meeting. And if you could bring the agenda back up. Looks like Michael, good afternoon. You have your hand up.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for this meeting. I appreciate always the opportunity to have a conversation with the board about these issues. I'm Michael Miller with the California Association of Wine Grape Growers, and I just have a couple of general thoughts I wanted to share that I think are really important and worth consideration as you're looking at water rights fees and other fees as well, including groundwater recharge fees, for example. The issue with the wine industry right now is I appreciate why the board has increased costs and such, and you want to cover this increased cost by increasing fees to cover those costs. Our growers don't have that ability. When our costs go up, they have no ability to pass that cost on to anybody because the wine industry is suffering in a historic way. Yesterday, the Sacramento Bee ran an article about a Napa grower who's ripping out hundreds of acres of vineyards. Today, the New York Times ran an article about a Central Coast grower who's going out of business after 50 years in growing grapes and making wine. This industry is at a crisis, and when you pass on more fees to the growers who are struggling to hang on, you have to know that some of them will not make it, and your increased fees will put them out of business. I appreciate that you hear all the time the sky is falling from people, but I'm telling you, the sky is falling on this one, and it's documented, well documented in just the B article yesterday, New York Times. The Wall Street Journal ran an article last December about the issue. It is well documented that the wine industry cannot continue to absorb increased fees like that. So please keep that in mind as you look at all these fee increases. And more specifically, there was a discussion more than a year ago about revisiting groundwater recharge fees. The governor has a directive pushing people to do more groundwater recharge. And the fees were substantially increased after they were reduced for a period of time, which we appreciate, but the increase does make it more difficult. I remember talking with John back in the day about how are you going to address this where you can encourage people to do groundwater recharge and at the same time don't discourage them by increasing their fees. So there's got to be something that can be done to balance that out. So I'd ask that as you look at fees, look at revisiting that issue and try to balance those two out, because if you keep increasing fees for groundwater recharge or just even keeping them where they are, it discourages people from doing what the governor and the legislature want them to do as far as increasing groundwater recharge. So I appreciate your thoughts. Again, I appreciate the open public discussion, and please consider what fee increases will do to growers who cannot afford any increased fees. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Michael, we appreciate your comments. They're definitely noted. And again, it's part of our job also, of course, pass these comments along to our board members on things that we hear and understanding kind of the sensitivity of California's economy. So definitely appreciate your comments. And there are no other hands up, and I am not seeing any other additional questions online. So which again moves us to, again, our next steps, which are the board adoption meeting on September 15th. Prior to that, there will be a agenda item posted. And at the meeting, of course, staff will present the item to the board for their consideration and adoption. Of course, when the item is publicly released, it just gives the stakeholders and the general public to go ahead and provide comments. And I definitely suggest that you do provide your comments. And definitely within the agenda item, it provides the timing of when they need to be submitted and how to submit them. So definitely encourage everyone to, of course, take a look at the agenda item and also provide comments. It's definitely we appreciate it, and it goes a long way with the process for our board members. And then one other thing I'll just mention is, again, after this meeting, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions. Cassandra and I, or John Russell, our Deputy Director here in the Division of Administrative Services, and again, along with the Division of Water Rights, we'll be happy to coordinate and a meeting with anyone who wants to meet with us. Again, I want to thank everyone's taking the time today to meet with us. Again, thank Water Rights Program staff, along with our attorneys, Sigma staff, along with the fee staff behind the scenes that help facilitate and run the meeting. Again, look forward to seeing everyone hopefully at the board meeting, and we will adjourn this meeting and hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.